Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
All right, ready to dive into a case with a lot going on. Small town secrets, a missing teacher, and a festival gone wrong.
Sounds intriguing.
We're heading to Sun Valley, California, back in the summer of 2025. Might think Sun Valley, means sunshine and good times, but
But always.
trust me, this town had a darkness beneath its charming facade.
It is fascinating how a place so picturesque, with those mountain views and a close community, could become the setting for a disappearance, a chilling disappearance.
Yeah.
Like something out of a book.
It really is.
A suspense novel where, everybody knows each other, but secrets simmer beneath the surface.
Right. And at the center of it all, Mr. Samuel Hawthorne, a high school literature teacher.
Oh, wow.
But he wasn't just any teacher, loved by his students,
Mm.
known for his engaging lessons and, his dedication. But as we see in these cases, there's always
More to the story.
more to the story.
Indeed. Mr. Hawthorne was leading a double life. Entangled in a scandalous affair with a younger teacher, Lily Thompson. Imagine the whispers, the raised eyebrows in a small town like Sun Valley.
Oh, yeah.
But that wasn't all.
Oh,
Mr. Hawthorne was on a mission to expose secrets, deeply buried secrets about the town's founding family, the Wensters.
with editor.
Powerful and influential, practically royalty in Sun Valley.
So we have forbidden romance, potential takedown of the town's elite. Sounds like a season finale already.
It does.
But let's not forget the other players in this drama. Tell me about them.
So we have Lily Thompson. She is the young drama teacher caught in the whirlwind of this affair. Then there's Daniel Gray. He's the charismatic local chef, owner of the most popular restaurant in town.
Okay.
Rumor has it that he and Mr. Hawthorne were rivals, competing for attention and community funding.
Oh, interesting.
And of course, we can't overlook Margaret Whitmore, the town historian.
Right.
Sharp wit, vast knowledge of Sun Valley's past, and she frequently clashed with Mr. Hawthorne over narratives, historical narratives, particularly those involving the Websters.
So it sounds like this town was a pressure cooker of personalities, secrets, simmering resentments. Did any of these characters have an obvious motive to want Mr. Hawthorne gone?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
It is.
$1 million question. Each of them had their reasons to be entangled in this drama, but motive is a slippery thing to prove. Oh, and then there's one more character we need to introduce. Tommy Barnett,
Okay.
a troubled former student of Mr. Hawthorne's, known for his rebellion and lingering anger toward authority figures.
Sounds like Mr. Hawthorne had his fair share of potential adversaries. But let's back up a bit. Walk me through the timeline of his disappearance. When did things start to go wrong?
All right. It all began in the days leading up to Sun Valley's annual Festival of Lights. Imagine the excitement, the whole town buzzing, decorations, the promise of celebration in the air. But on the day before the festival, everything changed. Mr. Hawthorne was seen having breakfast with Lily, teaching his last class. He delivered a rather poignant message about truth prevailing, and then he headed towards Havens Ridge. It's a secluded area known for its rocky terrain and eerie legends.
Havens Ridge. The name itself sounds ominous.
It does.
What was he doing there, especially on the eve of such a big event?
That is a question that haunted investigators from the very beginning. What was a beloved teacher in the midst of an affair and on the verge of exposing powerful secrets doing in such a desolate place? It was almost as if he was drawn there by some unknown force or perhaps meeting someone.
Okay, getting chills. So Mr. Hawthorne goes to Havens Ridge, and what? Was he ever seen again?
Well, his absence wasn't noticed immediately. It was at the festival kickoff meeting that evening when people began to realize something was wrong. Mr. Hawthorne, the heart and soul of the festival, was nowhere to be found.
I can imagine the panic that must have set in. The festival, about to begin, and the man everyone expected to lead the celebrations vanished.
Exactly. The mood shifted dramatically. Festive lights dimmed, casting shadows of fear and uncertainty. The joyous occasion turned into a frantic search, the community combing through those mountains, putting up flyers, clinging to hope that Mr. Hawthorne would be found.
So the Festival of Lights, meant to be a celebration of community, was overshadowed by this mystery. And what about the investigation? What were the initial leads?
So the police, led by Sheriff Jack Reynolds, launched a full-scale investigation, interviewing those closest to Mr. Hawthorne, Lily, Daniel, Margaret, trying to piece together his last movements and uncover any potential motives.
And did those interviews reveal anything suspicious?
The initial interviews, a mix of shock, grief, and carefully crafted alibis. Lily claimed to be at the school preparing for rehearsals. Daniel insisted he was busy at his restaurant, and Margaret maintained she was at home researching local history. But as the investigation progressed, cracks began to appear, revealing a tangled web of relationships, conflicting accounts, and a growing sense that someone wasn't being entirely truthful.
So the idyllic facade of Sun Valley was starting to crumble, and everyone was a suspect. What happened next? This feels like that moment in a movie when things really start to get interesting.
It does, doesn't it? Just as the tension was reaching a fever pitch, Sheriff Reynolds received a tip.
A tip.
That sent shockwaves through the investigation and the town. It came from a self-proclaimed psychic, someone claiming to have a vision of what happened to Mr. Hawthorne.
Wait, a psychic? Seriously, did the police actually take that lead seriously?
Desperate for answers, they brought the psychic in for questioning. Imagine the scene. A small-town sheriff, a missing teacher, a festival turned upside down, and now a psychic thrown into the mix.
Okay, this is already more twisted than I expected. And what did this psychic reveal about Mr. Hawthorne's disappearance?
Well, instead of concrete answers, he spoke in riddles, hinting at a connection between Mr. Hawthorne, the Websters, and some buried truth. A truth that threatened to shake the very foundation of Sun Valley. It was as if he was suggesting that Mr. Hawthorne's quest for truth had made him a target, but the details remained shrouded. Cryptic pronouncements and vague allusions.
So we've got a missing teacher, a town on edge, a web of suspicious characters, and now a psychic throwing out cryptic clues. This is more intense than I could have imagined. What happens next in this real-life mystery?
Welcome back to our deep dive into the baffling disappearance of Mr. Samuel Hawthorne. We left off with the introduction of a psychic into the investigation.
Right, psychic vision, as captivating as it might be, it's not exactly admissible in court.
Exactly.
So what kind of hard evidence did they find? Any breakthroughs?
The investigation took a turn towards the concrete when the forensic team started uncovering some intriguing clues. For starters, they delved into Mr. Hawthorne's digital footprint. Examining his phone records, messages, emails, all his online activity. It's amazing what a person's digital life can reveal, even in a small town like Sun Valley.
It's like a modern-day treasure hunt,
Right.
Sifting through those digital choices we all leave behind. What kind of treasures did they uncover in Mr. Hawthorne's digital world?
They found some tense text message exchanges between Mr. Hawthorne and Margaret Whitmore, the town historian.
Right. They had a history of clashing, especially when it came to the Websters.
Yes, those messages hinted at disagreements and Mr. Hawthorne's concerns about the Webster family's influence on Sun Valley's history.
It sounds like their relationship was more than just a difference of opinion on local history. Was there something deeper going on between them?
The messages certainly suggested a deeper conflict, hinting at a shared past or perhaps secret that bound them together. And then there were the messages between Mr. Hawthorne and Lily Thompson.
Right, the forbidden romance that had everyone whispering. What did those messages reveal about their relationship?
They painted a picture of a relationship filled with passion but strained by the weight of secrecy. The messages revealed a growing tension between them, suggesting their affair wasn't all, sunshine and roses.
Right.
There were hints of jealousy, disagreements, and maybe even fear.
It's a classic tale, isn't it? Forbidden love, hidden desires. But let's move beyond the digital realm.
Yeah.
Did the investigators find any physical evidence at Havens Ridge, where Mr. Hawthorne was last seen?
They did. I remember Havens Ridge is known for its rugged terrain, rocky cliffs, dense bushes, hidden crevices. Amidst the rocks and thorny branches, they found a piece of fabric snagged on a twig. It was torn and faded, but forensic analysis revealed it matched the unique style of jacket Mr. Hawthorne was known to wear.
A piece of his clothing at the scene where he disappeared. That must have been a major breakthrough.
It was a tangible link to Mr. Hawthorne in the very place he was last seen. But it still didn't tell them what had happened to him. The fabric was tested for DNA, but the results were inconclusive, adding another layer of mystery to the case.
So we've got digital whispers of conflict and a piece of clothing found in a desolate location. What about the other characters? Did any of their alibis fall apart under closer scrutiny?
As the investigation intensified, the pressure mounted on everyone connected to Mr. Hawthorne. Remember those cryptic graffiti messages?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that started appearing around town? Well, those turned out to be more than just the work of a bored vandal.
Really?
Forensic analysis linked some of those messages to Tommy Barnett.
Oh, right. Mr. Hawthorne's troubled former student. Those messages referencing classic literature. It seemed like someone was trying to send a message, but we didn't know who or why. So was Tommy trying to frame someone, or was he involved in Mr. Hawthorne's disappearance?
That became a central question for investigators. Tommy's history of rebellion and his strained relationship with Mr. Hawthorne certainly made him a person of interest. They brought him in for questioning, but he denied any involvement in Mr. Hawthorne's disappearance.
Of course he did. But what about the other suspects? Lily, Daniel, Margaret. Did any of their stories crumble under the weight of the investigation?
The interviews were intense, filled with tension and conflicting accounts. Lily maintained she was at the school, but no one could definitively confirm her whereabouts during those crucial hours. Daniel insisted he was at his restaurant, but a gap in his timeline emerged, raising suspicions about what he might have been doing. And Margaret, with her knowledge of Havens Ridge and her past conflicts with Mr. Hawthorne, remained a figure of intrigue.
So we've got a cast of characters with secrets, motives, and shaky alibis. Did anyone crack under pressure? Did any of them reveal something that could finally break the case open?
Well, the investigation took an unexpected turn. When Lily and Daniel were seen meeting privately, away from the prying eyes of the investigators, what they discussed remains a mystery, but it fueled speculation about a possible conspiracy to cover up what happened to Mr. Hawthorne.
A secret meeting. What were they trying to hide?
Their clandestine encounter added another layer of intrigue to the case. It suggested that they were both concerned about how Mr. Hawthorne's disappearance might impact their own lives, perhaps fearing what secrets he might have been planning to reveal.
It's like everyone in this town is caught in a web of secrets and lies, each thread connected to the disappearance of Mr. Hawthorne. And what about Margaret? Did she play any part in this unfolding drama?
Margaret, always a formidable presence in Sun Valley, became even more vocal as the investigation progressed. In a dramatic confrontation at a town hall meeting, she directly challenged Daniel Gray, suggesting they both had a responsibility to uphold the truth, even if it meant exposing uncomfortable secrets about the town, and its founding family.
So she wasn't afraid to stir the pot and challenge those in power. It sounds like Margaret suspected there was more to Mr. Hawthorne's disappearance than met the eye.
She certainly wasn't one to shy away from controversy, especially when it came to protecting the integrity of Sun Valley's history. And then, just when you think the case couldn't get any more convoluted, the investigators stumbled upon a hidden cache of Mr. Hawthorne's personal notes.
What?
These weren't your typical lesson plans. These were encrypted notes, hinting at his plans to expose the Websters and their alleged wrongdoing.
Encrypted notes. Sounds like something out of a spy thriller. What secrets was Mr. Hawthorne trying to protect, and was he silenced to keep those secrets buried?
Those encrypted notes became a puzzle within a puzzle, a tantalizing clue that pointed towards a deeper conspiracy. But the investigators needed to crack the code, to unlock the secrets hidden within those cryptic messages. And as they delved deeper into Mr. Hawthorne's notes, they realized that the truth was far more complex and dangerous than they could have ever imagined.
Okay, we're back. We've got a missing teacher, a town steeped in secrets, and a cast of characters who seem straight out a suspense novel. But what about those encrypted notes, the ones the investigators found? The ones hinting at a conspiracy involving the powerful Webster family? What did those notes reveal? And how did they change the investigation?
Those encrypted notes, they were like a map, leading to a buried treasure, a treasure that Mr. Hawthorne was determined to unearth.
Right.
But deciphering those notes, well, that was no easy feat.
I bet.
It took weeks of painstaking work by cryptography experts, but eventually they cracked the code, and what they discovered was shocking.
Okay, I can't handle the suspense anymore. What secrets did those notes hold?
The notes detailed Mr. Hawthorne's suspicions about the Websters, about their involvement in a series of shady land deals, some dating back to the town's founding. He believed they had manipulated property lines, exploited loopholes, and silenced anyone who dared to question their methods. A conspiracy that had been whispered about for years. But Mr. Hawthorne, he was the first one to gather concrete evidence.
So he wasn't just a beloved teacher. He was a crusader for truth, taking on a powerful dynasty. But how did this bombshell impact the investigation?
It threw the case wide open. It shifted the focus from the personal dramas of those closest to Mr. Hawthorne to the possibility of a much larger, more sinister plot.
Right.
Could the Websters have silenced Mr. Hawthorne to protect their secrets?
It's like something straight out of a film noir. The idealistic hero uncovers a dark conspiracy and ends up disappearing. But did investigators have any concrete evidence linking the Websters to Mr. Hawthorne's disappearance?
Remember the DNA evidence from the fabric found at Havens Ridge?
Yes.
While it was inconclusive in identifying a specific person, it did reveal something crucial. Traces of paint, the same type of paint used in the graffiti linked to Tommy Barnett.
Wait a minute. We were led to believe that the graffiti was just a side note, a reflection of Tommy's rebellious nature, but now you're saying it's connected to the Websters.
The investigators started to see a pattern. The graffiti messages, while cryptic, seemed to reference events, locations mentioned in Mr. Hawthorne's notes, almost like a coded message.
Okay.
Could Tommy have been working for the Websters, using his graffiti to distract from their involvement?
It's a wild theory, but it makes a twisted kind of sense. But what about Tommy? Did he ever admit to working with the Websters?
He remained tight-lipped, denying any involvement in Mr. Hawthorne's disappearance. But the investigators weren't convinced. They brought him in for another round of questioning, this time armed with the revelations from Mr. Hawthorne's notes and the connection to the graffiti.
Okay, I can feel the tension building. What happened during that interrogation? Did Tommy finally crack?
The pressure was immense. Tommy, a young man already grappling with his own demons, was now at the center of a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power in Sun Valley. He knew that whatever he said could have life-altering consequences.
So what did he do? Did he maintain his innocence, or did he reveal what he knew?
In a stunning turn of events, Tommy confessed. But his confession wasn't what anyone expected. He admitted to being at Havens Ridge with Mr. Hawthorne, but he claimed it was an unplanned encounter. He said they got into a heated argument, and in a moment of anger, he pushed Mr. Hawthorne. Mr. Hawthorne fell and hit his head on a rock.
So it was an accident. A tragic outcome of a heated argument. But what about the Websters? Where do they fit into all this?
Tommy insisted he was acting alone, driven by his own anger and resentment toward Mr. Hawthorne. He said he panicked after the fall, hid Mr. Hawthorne's body, and then tried to cover his tracks.
But if he was telling the truth, why the cryptic graffiti? Why the connection to Mr. Hawthorne's notes?
Those questions lingered, even after Tommy's confession. Some believed he was protecting someone, perhaps a member of the Webster family or someone working on their behalf. Others believed he was simply trying to create a diversion, to throw investigators off his trail.
So Tommy's confession brought a sense of closure, but it also raised a whole new set of questions about motives and the possibility of a deeper conspiracy. What happened to Tommy after his confession?
He was charged with involuntary manslaughter and eventually reached a plea deal, which included a sentence focused on restorative justice rather than punishment.
Okay.
The community, still reeling from the loss of their beloved teacher, was divided on whether justice had truly been served.
It's a bittersweet ending. Mr. Hawthorne's killer was brought to justice, but the truth behind his death and the extent of the Webster family's involvement remains shrouded in doubt. It seems like the idyllic town of Sun Valley will forever be haunted by the shadows of this unsolved mystery.
And that's the thing about secrets, isn't it? They have a way of lingering, casting a long shadow over even the most picturesque places. The case of Mr. Samuel Hawthorne might be officially closed, but the questions, the whispers, the doubts, they will likely echo through the streets of Sun Valley for years to come.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of a true crime mystery. We've explored the twists and turns of a case that shook a small town to its core, revealing the dark undercurrents that can flow beneath the surface of any community.
And remember, dear listeners, the truth is often a tangled web. It's up to each of us to unravel those threads, to question what we see, and to never stop seeking the answers, even when they lead us down a dark and winding path.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.